wanted to take a few moments, I wanted to take a few moments to clarify the comments I made last night regarding my position on life. I want to make it very clear that I am in fact pro-life without exception. I believe there is nothing more sacred than human life, and it's our responsibility to do everything to protect it. Let me be very clear that when I say I'm pro-life, I mean that I'm pro-life for the mother and I'm pro-life for the unborn child. For me, there is no distinction between the two. When it comes to having an abortion to save the life of a mother, I will say again that outside of the very rare circumstances such as ectopic pregnancies, during which both the mother and baby will die if the baby is not aborted, and other rare health issues and circumstances, the research is pretty clear that with the advances in modern medicine, an invasive and traumatic procedure like an abortion is often, thankfully, not necessary to save the life of a mother. In those very rare cases where a mother's life may be in danger past the point of viability for the baby, today's doctors work to induce labor or perform a cesarean section in an attempt to save both lives. These cases are extremely rare, and they unfortunately are used by the militant pro-choice movement to justify every single abortion. This is an issue that I take very seriously. I have a wife and 2 young adult daughters, so this is not a political issue for me. This is a personal issue. While I do not support abortion, I do, of course, support medical procedures for women during their pregnancies that might result in the loss of an unborn child. When such occurrences take place, that decision on whether to perform that procedure is a very difficult one, and one that should be left up to the mother and her family. Once again, I am strongly pro-life for both the mother and the unborn child. This is a position I am proud to have, and I will not back off it. I also think it's a position that most women also share. And for Miss Duckworth to say that I support letting a mother die, as she did last night, is the most disgusting form of politics. That statement could not be further from the truth. I care as much about the mother's life as I do the child's life. That is a desperate quote from a desperate candidate. On abortion, I am happy to contrast my position with hers. Miss Duckworth has an extreme pro-abortion with no restrictions stance. She is not just pro-abortion. She is a pro-abortion zealot who actually believes that taxpayers, regardless of their position on abortion, should fund all abortions. To go even further, she suggests and supports late-term, 9-month abortions under any circumstances. Her exact quote from last night was that she is pro-choice without any restriction. In Miss Duckworth's world, a 13-year-old who is 9 months pregnant can get an abortion without her parents knowing. Her position that there should be abortions on demand, no matter when, no matter why, and they be paid for by taxpayers, is a position that makes most Americans wince. Let me repeat. Her position that there should be abortions on demand, no matter when, no matter why, and that they be paid for by taxpayers, is a position that makes most Americans wince. Let's also not forget my opponent's comments on sexual abuse. When asked earlier this summer about sexual abuse in the military and her personal experience with it, my opponent's response was, and I quote, "I was never sexually assaulted," Miss Duckworth said, "because I was a pretty tough chick. and I was not some weak 18-year-old who couldn't push back, unquote. As a father of 2 daughters, I found those comments every bit as offensive as Congressman Aiken's offensive comments on rape. Ms. Duckworth's comments could not be more offensive, and yet they weren't covered. How dare Ms. Duckworth imply that women are only raped because they're too weak to fight back? And if only they were just a little tougher, rape would not occur. How dare she say that, and why did nobody cover it? Not only is her position out of the mainstream, what's more troubling is how she is using this issue of abortion to try to save a desperate campaign. In the last 2 weeks, Ms. Duckworth and her liberal super PACs have spent over $2 million attacking me on abortion. Yet, according to the recent polls, she's down in this race. The voters of the 8th District, men and women, care about finding a job, keeping their house, trying to pay their day-to-day bills, and fixing this unconscionable debt our country finds itself in. And yet Ms. Duckworth can only talk about abortion. Why is that? Why does she want to make this campaign about abortion and not about the economic tough times all of us are going through? Because clearly, she's trying to scare women. Women should find this offensive. Every poll taken this year shows that men and women care most deeply this year about jobs, the economy, and our debt, and yet Ms. Duckworth thinks so poorly of women that if she can simply utter the word abortion, women, and only women, will forget all about the fact that they're unemployed, that they're paying almost $4 a gallon for gas, and that they're struggling to stay above water on their mortgage. Shame on Ms. Duckworth for having this opinion of women, but I think more highly of women, and I think they'll see through this campaign of hers to scare and distract them. Here's the deal, folks. A prediction. Ms. Duckworth will likely spend the next 19 days talking about abortion. I will spend the next 19 days talking about jobs, the economy, and our debt, and what I intend to do to help get this country working again. I'm going to talk about all the empty warehouses and storefronts littered across this 8th district, just like the one we're standing in today. I'm going to talk about the massive unemployment and foreclosures in this district that somehow my opponent doesn't seem to be aware of. Let us remember, please remember, that just a few weeks ago my opponent said that the voters of the 8th district are better off today than they were 4 years ago. I don't think we are, but I think we can and should be. Final point, and I appreciate your patience. I find it amazing that both the local media and the national media are so fascinated that I and most Americans actually feel passionately about protecting the sanctity of life. But for some reason, this is breaking news that all of you must cover. Yet this very same media has absolutely no interest in covering issues regarding my opponent that voters in the 8th district actually care about. Folks, there are major issues regarding my opponent that put into question whether she has the ethics and the standards to even run for Congress. Think about it. In the last 3 months, we've learned the following about my opponent. We've learned that she's a tax cheat who claimed multiple homestead exemptions for a number of years. Why wasn't this covered? We've discovered that she wasted $2.5 million of taxpayer dollars on a Hawaii boondoggle government trip. Why wasn't this covered? We've learned that while heading up the Illinois VA, she was cited 12 times by the Illinois Auditor General for failing to comply with state law, and yet this wasn't covered. And finally, we just currently learned that she is currently being sued by 2 Illinois VA employees, 2 whistleblowers who had the courage to report campaign activity being done at the VA, a clear violation of state law. Ms. Duckworth fired, humiliated, and threatened these employees, and then tried to cover up her actions. And yet this hasn't been covered. And finally, as I said earlier, Ms. Duckworth thinks women are only raped because they're too weak to push back against their attacker. Why hasn't that been covered? Why won't the media concern itself with these questions, yet they're obsessed with a candidate being pro-life? This election and the times we live in right now are too important for the media to gloss over these issues that voters truly care about. As I said earlier, folks, I'm going to spend the next 19 days doing exactly what I've spent my entire campaign doing. I'm going to walk and ride this entire district and speak with as many families and small businesses as I can about the issues that matter to them. Jobs, the economy, and getting government out of the way so that we can get out of the mess that Ms. Duckworth and her friends have gotten us into. I will be sending out this statement along with statements from medical experts supporting my position on this issue. I understand finally that Ms. Duckworth will be hosting a press conference shortly after this one. I would just implore all of you, ask her, as you ask Congressman Aiken. Ask Ms. Duckworth about her offensive comments about rape. And ask Ms. Duckworth about her extreme, radical position on abortion. Please, thank you very much.
Congressman,
Any questions?